everybody, it's Mr. Oaks. So today we're going to do some two-step equations. I'm going to show you something, one way you can kind of figure out how you're going to do things, because a lot of times students, their biggest problem is knowing how to start solving a two-step equation, because since there's now two operations you're working with, they kind of get confused about which one do I start with. So what I'm going to do is I have this problem here. 28 equals 4r plus 28. Now, a lot of times students will just plug numbers in and hope that it works. But really, that's not the best way to do it. You need to do it in such a way that there is an order and a process. So when we look at this equation, what we're really looking at is how am I going to get this r by itself? And the best thing I do is I sometimes use what's called a do-undo chart. I'm going to draw that on the side over here. I'm going to kind of go do, undo. And what that says is basically on this side, on the do side, I'm basically going to say, according to order of operations, what am I having being done to the variable first, second, third, and so on. So when I look at this, my do, my order of operations, remember that's PEMDAS, parentheses. We don't have any parentheses. E is exponents. We don't have any exponents. Then we get to M and D, multiplication, division. When we look, this r, our variable, is being multiplied by 4. So I'm going to go times 4. Okay? And then the next thing that's done is we're adding 28. Now what happens on the undo is now we're going to work in reverse. So the last thing we did in the do column is the first thing we undo. And if you remember from our video on one-step equations, we need to deal with opposite operations. So our first thing that we did, the last thing that we did to the variable was we added 28. So the first thing we're going to do, to undo I should say, is we're going to undo plus 28, and the opposite of addition, subtraction. So the first thing way we're going to undo this is we're going to subtract 28. And then we have to undo the multiplication. We undo that by dividing by 4. So now I'm going to use my undo side to do my steps. So I undo this addition by subtracting 28 from both sides. Minus 28, minus 28. I cross out on the side with the variable. Those 28s cancel out. Over here, 28 minus 28. Oh, well those cancel out too, but I can't just leave it completely blank. What I have to do is I have to put a 0. That's really what's happening here. I'm going to have a plus 0. We just don't write it because this 4r plus 0 is just going to be 4r. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to have 0. On the right-hand side, I'm going to bring down the 4r so that we have 4r equals 0. Now, it should be kind of obvious what the answer is, but we're going to continue to do the steps anyway, because when you are doing two-step equations, when you're doing this work, you need to show all your steps. You can't just jump to the answer. All right? When you're taking a test, when you're taking a state exam, you need to show all the work or you're not going to get all of the credit. Okay? So my next thing to do is I'm going to divide by 4. So I'm going to divide by 4 on that side, on the right side. I'm going to divide by 4 on the left side. These 4's cancel out. We're left with r. 0 divided by 4, 0 divided by anything is going to be 0. 0 divided by anything but 0 is 0. So we get that our answer is r equals 0. And then we would do a check. So I'm going to just come over this side. I'm going to do a check real quick. 28 equals 4r plus 28. We're going to substitute in 0 for r. 28 equals 0 plus 28. 28 equals 28. That checks. So our answer is r equals 0 or 0 equals r. Okay? So that's what I got here. So we're just going to do a couple of problems. And we're not always going to use our do-undo chart, but I'm going to use it for these two, and then the last two problems we're going to do, we're going to not use the do-undo chart. So I have here 36 minus 6s equals 48. So again, I'm going to do my do, undo chart. Now when we look at this, 36 minus 6s equals 48. So I look at this and I go, okay, well, I'm going to, again, think PEMDAS. The ones that we're doing, we're not going to have parentheses, we're not going to have exponents. So really we're looking at, do we have multiplication and division, and do we have addition or subtraction? When I look here, we have multiplication here. And what we're multiplying is negative 6 times s. So I'm going to put times negative 6. And I'll put that in parentheses too, so I know that that's a negative on that 6 and not a minus. Then we have this 36. When we need to know whether we're adding or subtracting, we should look to the left of the number. If I don't have a minus, then this is a positive number, so technically I'm adding it. Okay? Alright? This negative is attached to the 6. So that, they're always moving to the right. So, what was the last thing we did to the variable? We added 36. So the first thing we undo is that adding 36. So we're subtracting 36, and then we are dividing by negative 6. So let's do that. So I'm going to write minus 36 under here. I'm going to write minus 36 underneath the 48. I'm going to do one more thing because I've noticed that students of mine make this mistake. You have to realize that there's two sides to the equation. There's the side that's to the left of the equal sign, there's the side that's to the right. And so sometimes we draw a line to separate those two. So you don't have to, it's not part of what would give you credit, but if it helps you to keep things in track, in order, then do it. So the negative 6s comes down. I'm going to put the equals there. 48 minus 36 gives us a positive 12. Our next thing, we're going to divide by negative 6. So divide by negative 6 there. Divide by negative 6 there. The negative 6's cancel out. We have an s. Positive 12 divided by a negative 6. Positive divided by a negative is going to be a negative. 12 divided by 6 is a 2. Okay? I had this compulsion to ask any questions, but this is not live. I don't have any students in front of me, but that's the teacher in me going, does anybody have any questions? I missed those kids. Alright, so let's move to this next one here. Again, I'm going to set up a do, undo chart. Okay. Negative 81 equals negative 45 minus 9n. So here's my variable n. Order of operations, Do we have multiplication and division? Yes, we do. We are multiplying by a negative 9. And then we are, oh, that's a negative 45, so technically that's subtracting. We're subtracting 45. How do we undo? Start with the last thing we did. Negative 45, its opposite is plus 45. We're multiplying, so we have to divide by negative 9. See, the pattern, the way we solve these, it's the same method. I'm going to be doing the same thing over and over. Nothing really changes except the numbers we're using and what operations. That's it. The process overall is the same every single time. If you remember that, it makes things that much easier. Once you recognize a pattern, stick with it. That's what math is all about. It's all about patterns. That's why we can solve these things, because there's a pattern that's true every single time. So, I'm going to start. First, I'm going to add 45 to both sides. I'm going to draw my little separation line there. Plus 45 on the left-hand side, plus 45 on the right-hand side. Those two cancel out. Negative 81 plus 45. Then 81 is bigger and it's negative, so our answer is going to be negative. And when I subtract 81 and 45, I get 36. I bring down the negative 9, the negative 9n, divide by negative 9. Boom. Boom. These cancel out, and we're left with n. Over here, negative divided by a negative, positive. 36 divided by 9, 4. And that's our answer. Okay? So I have two more problems we're going to do. But this time, I'm not going to use the do-undo chart, because you don't have to use it every time. Okay? If you use it when you're first starting this, it helps you to keep things in order. But after a while, you should be able to look at a problem like this and know how to start off. 36 equals 54 minus 9a. So I look, and the first thing I'm going to look for is, where's the multiplication or the division? The multiplication division is always attached to the variable. Okay? So we're always starting closest to the variable. What is directly attached to the variable? We are multiplying by a negative 9. So, opposite of multiplication, division, I'm going to divide by negative 9. If I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. So, I messed up. I messed up. It happens. I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm not going to start off with dividing by negative 9. I should have used my do-undo chart. I made such a big deal. I'm going to cross that out. I'm going to cross that out. I don't start with what's multiplying. Here's my multiplication. I have to start off with what's adding or subtracting. Boo. Alright? I was going to make it a mistake eventually. So I actually have to start off here. I'm adding 54. So I have to subtract 54 from both sides. Alright, so I cross that out. I bring the negative 9a down. 36 minus 54. Well, 54 is bigger, so my answer is going to be negative. And then 54 minus 36 gives us 18. Now, I'm going to divide by negative 9. Goofball. else out. I'm just left with a. Negative divided by a negative, positive. So 18 divided by 9 gives us a positive 2. If I had kept going and I had divided by negative 9, I would have then done a check and I would have seen this doesn't work. This didn't work out. Okay? If I was to start off by dividing, I'd have to divide everything by negative 9. The 36, the 54, and the negative 9a. There's another way to do it. It's just a little bit more complicated. Just a little bit more, but it's enough that it can throw you off. And as you saw, I've been doing math, I've been teaching math for pretty much 15 years now. And I have done this, and I still every once in a while make a mistake. The difference is, I recognize it immediately, and I can admit, well, I made a mistake. It's not that I'm dumb. It's not that I'm not good at math. I'm good at math. But it's just, every once in a while, you make a mistake. Oh well. So, last one here. 8 equals 16 minus 8n. This is multiplying, but I have to start off with the addition or the subtraction, which means the 16. The 16 is a positive 16, so I'm going to subtract 16 here, and I'm going to subtract it from the 8 that's on the left-hand side of the equal sign. Boom, boom. 8 minus 16, 16 is bigger, so my answer is going to be negative. 16 minus 8 is 8. Bring down the negative 8n, and now I can do the division. Divide by negative 8 on this side, divide by negative 8 on that side. These two cancel out. I'm left with n, and a negative 8 divided by a negative 8, I have the same number on top and bottom, gives me a 1. So that's how we do two-step equations. I hope this was helpful. I hope that it allows you to be successful with solving two-step equations. I hope it also allows you to see that even people who know how to do math, every once in a while are going to make mistakes. So it happens. It's human. Like, subscribe, please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.